What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. And as the name of the video suggests, today we're going to be discussing how important class and breed choice is for you in the game of Biomutant when you're starting out a fresh game. And we're also just going to spend some time discussing the 6 stats and essentially what those 6 stats do for you in the game, because the description that we've seen in the screenshots and so far has not been incredibly descriptive, and maybe there's some hidden detail behind that that you might not know about yet. Just as a disclaimer or as a statement right at the beginning, the information that I have in this video is of course compiled from some of the playthroughs that we've seen now. There was a PewDiePie playthrough from a day ago, as well as looking at the Biomutant wiki and essentially developer feedback that has been given to questions that they've faced from different publications, and that's essentially where the information that I'm relaying to you in this video is coming from. So let's start it off right away. When you begin a game of Biomutant, you have some choices to make. One of the first choices you make is your breed choice, of which there are 6 options to choose from. Then secondly, you choose mutations of that breed, which I'll explain a little bit more right now. And then lastly, you choose a class. Once again, there's 5 options to choose from. And then you have a 6th option, mercenary, which is available if you've pre-ordered the game. So if you don't pre-order it, you've only got the 5. If you pre-order the game right now, then you have 6 options. So let's start off with the first one, the breed choice. So breed choice essentially provides some stat minuses in one of the 6 categories and some stat positives in one of the 6 categories. But breed choice essentially drives the aesthetic of what your character looks like, and each one of the breeds looks a little bit different in terms of length and face and the girth of the body and all of that. And this is essentially the number one thing that's going to determine what the outline of your character is essentially going to look like. Now, right off the bat, something that's very important and that has been covered by the developer is that in the game there is respecking. So at different parts of the game, I suppose whenever you want to at a later stage in the game, you are able to respec stat points at any given time. So that means that you'll be able to choose certain stats, and then when you realize that actually like let's say for instance you dump a lot of stats into intellect because you want to make a spellcaster, and then let's say 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours into the game, you decide, this isn't really for me. What I actually want is I want a bruiser character. I want a melee character that I can do a lot of, melee damage with. Then you can respec and essentially take the points that you've invested into intellect and you can put them into strength. Now, let's just get back to the beginning then again, is that breed gives you slightly higher points in certain categories, certain stats, and slightly less in others depending on your choice, and that's basically the only stat difference that there is. And then of course the visual aesthetic of your character. The second choice that you have is mutations, which you get to pick after the breed choice, and essentially this means that you can further augment one of those 6 stats to be much more powerful than other, or you can just leave it right in the middle of the mutations and essentially not mutate yourself in any way. Now, this means that right off the bat, when you create a level 1 character, you could, for instance, if it's very important to you, you can mutate all the way down into charisma, for instance, and give yourself a massive charisma boost, which will help with buying items from the shop and everything like that and getting better barter prices. So there's a further, augmentation that you can do there. And then the last point that you get to is your class choice. Now, your class choice, again, determines some starting perks that you start with, like for instance additional range damage or fast key regeneration, so basically mana regeneration, and you can for instance get lower dodge cost and everything. So the standard perks that you would imagine, and each one of those 5 classes have those. But something that's very important to mention here is that, and this is the thing that's going to be quite interesting with this game, is that it looks, from based on the information that we have, that class choice and breed choice, well, breed choice is a different one, we'll discuss that separately, but class choice and mutations is not really going to have such a big impact on you in the late game. where you've leveled up a bunch of times and you've able to accumulate a bunch of stat points, and any kind of deficit that your character had because you chose to, for instance, mutate a lot of charisma, and that gave you, for instance, a lot less vitality, for instance, you would be able to bridge that gap by the stat points that you get, and in essence erase any deficit that your character might have. And since you're able to do this on the fly because you're able to respec these items, it does, however, call into question whether this game will really have build guides specifically, because the point being that the only difference to speccing into certain points at the beginning of your class choice and at the beginning of your mutation choice is really only those first couple of hours of the game when you don't have a bunch of levels and you haven't accumulated additional points. So if you know right from the beginning that you want to play a ranged character and you want to focus on guns, then you can obviously do that through the use of mutations and through the use of your class choice and pick a ranged character. But around the mid game, or maybe even late at the beginning of the game, you're gonna have enough points and have unlocked enough upgrade points that if you chose a melee character or melee character, sorry for my pronunciation, you would be able to spec into being a ranged character in any case. So again, like I said, it means that I don't think that this game will really have traditional builds all that much. And secondly, I think the only real thing that matters a lot at the beginning when you create the character is whether you like the look of the character. I think it's more a style over substance situation here, due to the fact that later on, when you've accumulated multiple levels, you could essentially be any character that you want, and you can respec as many times as you want. And possibly even, and this is unconfirmed, this is just a suspicion from my side, when you reach the final stages of your build, you will have access to basically so many stat points that you'd be able to max most of the stats and essentially become a jack of all trades. But at the same time as well, you will have unlocked so many perks that you can be equally as efficient in melee as you are in ranged and as you are in spellcasting, for instance. Does that mean that there aren't ways for you to min-max and really get the tippy top of certain, abilities and like the best magic power and the best range damage and all of that? Yeah, sure. But I think the gap between that and just a generic character that's been leveled completely and unlocked everything is not going to be that big at all. So that's basically then my analysis in a nutshell. I think it's more important for you at the beginning of the game to pick a character that's aesthetically pleasing to you, that you will enjoy playing with this character and the way that it looks for the game, because in the first 6, 8, 10 hours of the game, once you start getting high levels, you're going to be able to address any kind of deficit that you might have given yourself when it comes to stat distribution. However, if you want to be some crazy spellcaster at the beginning of the game straight off the bat from level 1, then obviously, mutate yourself into, for instance, a higher intellect. So for the last part of the video, what I want to do is I just want to look at the 6 stats that we have in the game, namely being vitality, strength, intellect, charisma, agility, and luck, and just unpack a little bit of what each one of these are responsible for, and kind of what makes up what the stat covers, because it's not completely explained very well in the screenshots and the videos and the things that we've seen, and only through diving through the wiki and some additional Q&A from the developer, I was able to really get like the full, let's say, picture. So the first one, vitality, essentially governs your health and your armor, but what vitality also covers is the rate of your health regen and the percentage by which it regen. So if you stack a lot of vitality, you're obviously going to regen health a lot quicker and a lot more efficiently as well, and you'll also have, of course, high health pool values and a high armor value. Vitality also gives you an overall resistance to abilities being used by you. So again, the higher you stack your vitality, the more resistant you will be against enemies that use abilities against you. Secondly, we have strength. Now, strength affects your melee damage overall, but this is also one of the stats that will be a determining factor whether you can equip certain pieces of gear, whether that be very heavy pieces of armor or, for instance, very big pieces of melee equipment. So this is kind of like a gating mechanism that you have to have a certain amount of strength to equip a certain something. Anybody that's familiar with RPGs in general, this will be nothing new to them, because strength is usually a stat that is used for this kind of thing. So that's basically that. When we then go over to intellect, intellect is your magic stat. So not only does it affect the power, you know, the strength of your magic abilities like Spark Ball and all of them, but it also affects the mana pool that you have, which is called key energy, and also the regeneration of that pool. So the more intellect you have, the more mana you have available for spells, the harder those spells hit, and also the faster your mana regenerates, so you can cast those spells some more. Now there's also a resistance built in behind this stat as well, but this resistance is specifically to power and magic abilities being used on you, so it's a second level of resistance alongside what you have in vitality. And also there's a stat here for your piercing of enemies resistances. So the higher your intellect is, the more likely you are able to pierce enemy resistances with your own damage. And then lastly, there's also some cooldown reduction built into this as well. So again, the higher you stack up intellect, the more often you'd be able to use your abilities, because the cooldown reduction is helping you with that. The fourth stat that we can look at is charisma. Now, charisma is important because the game obviously has a lot of loot that you can find out in the wilds and that you can find in crates and in boxes and by killing enemies and all of that. But there's also a lot of mods and scrap and unique items which are sold by vendors. Now, charisma is going to affect the price levels definitely of what you can buy them as. And although I haven't seen any footage of us selling stuff to a vendor, I have to assume that you're able to do that, and that will most likely affect that as well. So it's overall just a barter increase, as they call it, which means that you're getting a little bit more money from selling something, but you're definitely also able to purchase things for less green leaf, which is the currency in the game. And in a lot of the videos you can see that there's this green leaf with a number behind them. That's the actual currency of the game and what you use to actually purchase these items from the vendors. The fifth and the second last stat is agility. Agility covers a whole bunch as well, but basically fundamentally it determines the move speed of your character, so just how fast you move. So if you want to build a roguish kind of character that's really fast, able to run really fast, jump really fast and so on, then of course agility is the stat that you want to look at. This stat also governs your attack speed. So this pushing this up is also a direct, let's call it DPS or damage increase for you, because you're also able to attack more frequently. And lastly, also the dodge mechanism that you have in the game, agility also determines how much of that dodge energy you use up when you dodge. So stacking in the agility stat is going to allow you to dodge more and more regularly, basically. The last stat is luck, and this is a very interesting one for me. It's actually the one that I kind of feel that I might try to max out first, because of essentially this determining your overall critical chance. So whether you're using ranged attacks or whether you're using melee, stacking luck is going to increase the chance of you achieving criticals with your attacks. But the other thing that's also really nice is there's a passive bonus to your loot chance. Now, the best way I can explain this is, if those of you that know how Magic Find works in a game like Diablo, it's basically like this. So this loot chance is, first of all, it's a percentage chance of you actually finding loot, but then also it's a percentage chance of that loot being of a high rarity or a very good quality of the loot that you find. So somehow seeming to be a really powerful stat for in a game like this, which is largely loot driven. And I think the equipment and the options that you have when it comes to scrap and being able to build melee items and ranged weapons and all of that, being so highly dependent on the quality of those items, this can be a pretty OP stat to look at maxing as soon as possible. Again, like I said, there's really kind of no wrong choice you can make here, though, because the point is, as you're playing the game, if you end up speccing some points into something and then realizing, nah, I didn't really want it, I rather wanted to put this somewhere else, it's simply a respec away where you can do this. That's it, basically. That's all the new information I have for you. I hope this was helpful or at least informative to a degree. By the way, this channel has a Discord right now. It's in the description of the video right below, so please feel free to join. We'd love to have you. We have close to 60 members on there already as of the recording of this video. I know that a lot of my content in the last couple of weeks has been Outriders related, but this Discord is not just related to Outriders. It's for all gaming content as a whole, even though there is a special Outriders section in this Discord channel for people that want to group up together and do things in Outriders. This is a general gaming Discord, and please feel free to join, interact with the community that we have there. There's a great bunch of people that have managed to join it already. Extremely helpful gamers like you and me, who are always there to answer a question or help out or something like that. But just in general, a really rock solid community. And you can be part of it. So that's it. Please go ahead and subscribe and like this video if you enjoy content like this. We're a few days away from Biomutant coming out. I'm super excited for it. We'll definitely be playing it on launch day, most likely streaming it as well. So let me know in the comments below if you're interested in that. Let me know if you're picking up the game. Let me know if there's something else you're looking forward to. But in general, thank you very much for watching this video, especially if you made it this far. And I just want you to have a good morning, a good afternoon, a great evening, wherever you are. And until next video, fucking cheers.
They want the best of me now, best of me now, best of me now, best of me. They want the best of me now, best of me now, best of me now, best of me.